Okay, so let's talk about the military forces of Caleum. I've had a chance to look at them all now, so I can give you a sort of a rough rundown of what I think of the Middle Age Caleum, because I've never seen these guys before. It's nice to sort of weigh things now and then say 50 turns in if I'm still alive, see how my judgments have gone. So you know these guys. They're the cheapest and they're the weakest, or I believe they're the cheapest. Um, Really low protection, really low resource cost, which is good. 10 gold each. They have, strangely enough, their lance is magic, which is pretty damn good because there's very few races that start out with instant magical weapons. Um, they fly, which is always a bonus, but the downsides are they're not very defensive and they've not got very good protection. Moving on to the ones immediately next to them, these guys are slightly better at, I believe, a slight resource, yeah, 2 resource increase in that they have shields. So they've got a higher defense skill, same protection, but that defense skill means, with the parry, they can stop a lot of arrows that are going to come towards them because, a lot of people use arrows in this game. Speaking of which, we are an archer nation, so let's look at these dudes. Spire Horn Archers. Their precision is fantastic, 12 precision. When precision 10 is average and precision 15 is pretty hard to find, precision 12 is like pretty damn good. Um, these guys will stay at the back of the army firing short bows. It's only range 30, but you're going to get a lot of shots out, an awful lot of shots, especially if you're packing these guys into groups. If they're firing a shot every single turn, that's 12 turns worth of firing, and at strength 10 with no additional strength modifier, they have the chance to kill weaker units, especially if I'm selecting to fire enemy archers, because a lot of the independents and indeed the II will always put their spellcasters with their archers at the back of their army. So these arrows will fly over the heads of their heavily armoured troops and land amongst the squishy mages. Resources 5, so they're actually the cheapest, they're available, which is fantastic, but then again, protection 5, not all that great. Then you've got the Storm Guard. These dudes not nearly as heavily armoured as the the Ice Clads, rather, but they're definitely up there as potentials for the pure sake of Ice Lance. Great, it's a magical length attack, but interesting fact, these dudes, their protection goes up depending on how cold the province is, and with maxed out cold scales and a Dominion strength of 5, chances are, in winter especially, these guys are going to be monsters. So I won't buy any to start with, at least not until it gets to sort of winter time. But the moment that I've got sort of a strong enough dominion spread over a relatively large kind of area of land, I can use these guys to hunt down, say, when the enemy starts invading back into my territory. Because, regardless, you can be taking land, but unless you've got like a wall of an army that's just like sweeping over the countryside, they are going to get in behind and they are going to try and take provinces back. Pincer maneuvers and God knows what else. So these guys, they're pretty good at defending, I reckon. But for 31 resources each, they're damn expensive. Maybe not as expensive as these guys at 42 resources. I mean, case in point, I have 80 resources to spend on these guys. So right now, for 5 resources each, these Spire Horn Archers are damn good. Okay, now we get... So if these are all the Grey Wings from the Spire Horn clan, because this is like set into clans for fluffy reasons, I suppose, and because it makes them look pretty. The white-winged ones are the sort of more Caleum regulars. They're kind of the sort of pure breeds, if you want to go into any sort of details. These guys are more like crows. They're very dark winged creatures. These ones are more sort of like doves, I suppose. Their start, Blizzard Warrior, okay precision. Its main selling is that it's got a higher protection, 7 over 5. If they get a hit, they can stay alive. There's a chance to stay alive. It's the same bow again, same ammunition. It's just a little bit more resource expensive, but definitely doable in the later game when there's more resources available. Calean Light Infantry. These guys not as strong, but again, it's a higher protection than these ones. So and you know, it's what do you prefer, higher protection or higher strength? These guys might have a chance to kill bigger, tougher monsters. These guys might be able to kill some of the regular sort of dudes, but if they have a higher protection, they can absorb what damage both of them will deal out, so that'd be a trouble, which is why we have mammoths. Caleum infantry with swords. I I'm not really sure about the sword. Whilst you could probably get an extra attack in every turn, um, it you know for mm, you probably get more attacks in if you cast, say, Quicken Army or something. I'm not so sure that having a shorter weapon is necessarily better. I think the if a spear kind of beats a sword if you're able to stab them before they can sort of get in and stab you. But you know they've got higher magic resistance, and it's kind of little different details. Iceclads, have you seen? You know, great morale. It's morale 12, great protection, one less hit point, one less strength, great defense skill, great attack. Precision, they don't use range weapons, so it's not needed. They're slower flight-wise, but you know these guys are wearing heavier armor and movement. Map movement 2 for heavy equipped units. That's damn good. That's damn good. That's not to be sniffed at. And then we have mammoths. These guys are map move 3, although that might just be because, you know, in the winter they don't slow down. You know, they just keep going. But at the end of the day, main problems, it's always morale. It's always magic resistance. It's always, you know, if they'll just die instantly because they've got next to no defense skill. But if you can get them out of the front and not under arrow fire, you know, if you can have them set up to the side at the front so they can sort of sweep in and just start crunching over things, you know, the enemy's archers tend to pick off the front ranks. So, you know, you stick them to a flank, you're fine. And now here we've got the weird ones. We've got the wingless warriors. These are the temple guards. They don't have wings for a start, so these are the slowest units in the entire army at map movement 1. I'm probably not going to use these. There may be protection 16, there may be, you know, sacred, but at the end of the day, these guys are slow. It's hard to move these guys around the map quickly. And I don't think, in considering how quick Caleum's armies can spread around the globe, I think these guys may hold up my forces a bit too much. Maybe great as defensive formations, but I don't know. I mean, I mean, I checked the other one, wingless. So yeah, wingless warriors. These ones are weird for the pure sake of they're pretty slow because they haven't got wings. They're not sacred at all. They've got great morale. And not very good protection, not very good strength. Alright, pretty good defense skill. Precision doesn't matter. They're okay move, so they could probably follow the mammoths around, providing their morale. But the problem is they have no protection against cold or indeed storm powers, and they don't have wings. I mean, okay, it makes sense that they don't have wings, but because they're wingless. But you know, with no wings, they're very slow. But then again, map move 2, I'll stick a couple into my mammoth units just so that I've got that extra added oomph. And they're able to keep up with these guys, so... Okay, map movement 3, but the point is, you know... It's morale 14, guys. It's it's the higher the roll, the better, you know? We've got scouts. There's nothing really interesting here, because I'm not going to be using them for combat, because they're scouts. They have the stealthy attributes, so they can, you know, scout, and they fly, and they've got, you know, bugger all leadership, so they can't lead anyone. Storm generals, average general, really. I mean, there's nothing spectacular here. They can just carry troops around. You know, they can't move any undead or magic units, but you know, they can certainly get people from A to B. The Spire Horn Seraph. These are like very cheap casters for 1 resource and 60 gold. It's 1 level of air, but put these guys in communions so that they can like draw off of each other's energy, and then you've suddenly got a wall of lightning bolts every damn turn. So I think after I've hit construction 4, maybe I'll start going into I'll start going into alteration, maybe, so that I can get these guys, you know. Oh no, evocation, so they can start casting lightning bolt and doing damage on the field. These guys are damn cool. Ice crafters. They have the forge bonus, 25. That is basically things that they forge are a quarter cheaper than they would normally be. You give these guys dwarf hammers, which basically halves the cost of things and gems, and these guys are a fiend when it comes to knocking out cheap arms and armour. So I'm tempted to pick a load of these up later on in the game when I've got the research, so that I can just start mass producing stuff and giving it to generals. What sort of generals? We've got magic casters and more magic casters, although these ones are interesting because they can trip into an additional level. That's a 100% chance of getting a level in either air, water, astral or death, but then from that a 10% chance of then going to an additional path. So chances are I'm going to get a whole mix of these guys. And then we've got our basic, priest who can go around casting bless, and at the same time, though rather expensive, can go around banishing undead if we find ourselves fighting undead, which against Irma, very likely. With... where is he? There he is. With the Ice Crafter, the thing is, we'll be able to knock out weapons and armour out of the Demon Hole, but the problem is, it's finding a chassis worthy enough to put these gifts onto. Because once you've put like a load of swords and armour and miscellaneous objects on them, that's fine, but it's making those thugs, those super combatants, those dudes that can just take on an army by themselves. Yeah, that's the key. For the most part, when I do start building these guys, they'll be making research boosters, because I think those are going to be very important in the early game. So what should I recruit?